What's up, hobby friends? My name is Casey and welcome to another miniature rescue. This week we're going to take a look at some old world models and try and fix a few. This video has been sponsored by Displate. With the old world coming out just recently and kind of being back ordered and a lot of people pretty excited about it, it seems, I thought that it would be kind of fun to go through a lot of the models that I haven't touched in a really long time and, I don't know, see what would be a fun project to work on that is in that old world realm. Because I gotta be honest, I never really played Warhammer Fantasy. It wasn't really my thing. I played 40k a long time ago when I was pretty young. And I've since come back because of Age of Sigmar. That's when I started back in the hobby. I painted a couple years a long time ago. Then I came back and started basically right when AOS launched. I got the starter box. In that interim time, I never touched fantasy. I never touched Warhammer Fantasy Battles, never even worked with square bases. Now, of course, I did see all of that stuff and I still liked it. But at the time, in kind of the late 90s, Warhammer 40k was pretty huge. So that's where I entered into the hobby. So I've accrued a pretty decent collection, but it's really scattered. I think I ended up buying a couple of things not too long after I started trying to build different armies and see what that was like. And a lot of those were on square bases. Now I have rebased a lot of that stuff onto round bases since I got them because nobody thought that was coming back. But here we are in a whole new era of wargaming, I guess, a new old era, and people are excited, and I'm excited, and I wanna check out some of that square-based goodness. So let's go through a few things. Let's find some cool models, just see what they are, and see what we can do with them. About a year ago, I moved into this space, and it's taken pretty much every spare moment since then to turn it into a real working studio. Getting paint on the walls, cabinets for displaying minis, and even desks to work on have all been great. But it wasn't until I got some art up on the bare walls that I really felt like we were finally getting somewhere. Displate is about collecting your passions and getting inspired, something a few of us might know a little about, and I was absolutely ecstatic when I heard they were coming out with officially licensed Warhammer plates. I ordered a few, and as expected, they showed up really quickly, about 4 or 5 days, which is pretty great. Unboxing a Displate is actually pretty awesome too. Each plate feels like a distinct piece of art and comes packaged so nothing will harm your investment. The unique magnet mounting system was also a fantastic surprise because it was super easy to get these on the wall where I think they're going to end up, but I know if I ever want to move them around the room, I can take them down safely without damaging the walls. Having a collection of art makes this room finally feel like a real hobby space, and with Displate's massive variety of over 1.3 million designs from tons of amazing artists and brands, I'm definitely going to be expanding this collection and making the space feel even better. If your hobby room needs elevating with some fantastic and unique art, check out Displate by clicking the link in the description or in the pinned comment below, and use my unique discount code to get 22% off of 1 to 2 plates or 33% off for 3 or more. Thanks again, Displate, for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to those old world minis. Back in the early days of the channel, when I was just starting and I was just getting into a lot of different aspects of this particular niche of the hobby, rescuing models, I was sent a Green Knight by a Ben Davies, who actually has a YouTube channel, and I will link that in the description. So check it out after this. He sent me this model, and it was in a little bit of a rough condition. It had gone through some moves, and it had been kind of bashed up and broken, and there were pieces missing. And I think to this day, it's still one of my more favorite models and videos that I've ever made. The Green Knight is an epic model, and this was a really fun rescue to do. And it's funny looking back on this because, you know, I was just getting back into painting. I was barely able to really do much of anything, and, you know, it's still one of those projects that I really like even now. I think it just turned out really, really nice, and We fixed a lot of the issues with it, and it got me excited to want to get into more of the fantasy models, more of the old fantasy models, the ones that just aren't around anymore. After I fixed this model up and made that video, I was excited to look for more. So I went onto eBay and I bought up a whole bunch of different fantasy models. I found some really good deals on some old Skaven, on square bases, and I started to build a collection. And it's not huge even still, even though I've been going through and picking up models here and there, but it's something that I want to continue to work on. And now that there's an actual, new rule set that's being supported, and hopefully for quite some time, I feel like there's a really good opportunity to start picking up a lot of these models used on eBay and actually being able to use them in a game that they were meant for. I've been keeping a lot of models in this drawer for quite a long time, and now it's probably a good time to start pulling some out, because there's a lot of really cool stuff in here that I just haven't gotten a chance to work on. I've had a lot of these models for a pretty long time. Some of them were gifted to me by friends and subscribers of the channel, and I've been wanting to work on them for quite some time. A few of them in particular I'm very excited about. There are a lot of models on this table, and a lot of these models look really cool. There's just something about the old way that a lot of these things were done, the technology of the time, and it's really exciting to see that the old world is bringing out a lot of these older sculpts or older design aesthetics, I guess is probably a better way to put it. And I don't know, I'm just getting really excited about the possibilities, especially what the old world models and fantasy models are going to look like on the used market going forward, because I'm already starting to see a lot of people put up old armies, old square-based armies. The funny thing is, when I got into Age of Sigmar, the same thing was kind of happening. There was excitement around the new game and circular bases, and so a lot of people were changing out their square bases for rounds. And I think it's pretty funny, because now we're kind of taking a step back and a lot of people are looking for those square bases again. There are some really elegant solutions in terms of using round bases in a movement tray to make them square, and I like that. I think that anything that I currently have that does fit into an army that exists within the old world probably needs to stay on square bases. For now though, I think we're going to pick something in this large pile that just seems fun and paint it up, because there's a lot of really cool stuff that just hasn't been seen in a long time, I think. So I finally picked a model out of the bunch, one I'm really excited about, and I'll share a little bit more why later. But it's going to go into a bath of LA's Totally Awesome, which is a heavy-duty degreaser in the Sonic Jewelry Cleaner. This is going to penetrate through that old primer, it's going to get all the dirt off, and we're just going to scrub it clean. After that, I'm going to scrape away any mold lines, sand them down, and we're going to get the model put together. This model's pretty thick and the gaps are pretty large, so I'll be using Milliput to fill those. I really like Milliput because it's water-based, so once it's mixed together you can kind of squish it into the gaps with your finger and then use water to smooth that over. So we can avoid getting any excess into the finer details, but really fill the gaps and make sure that once the paint goes down that you really don't see those seams anymore. This model is particularly bad for that. The pieces are really thick and they don't 100% fit together. So milliput is definitely necessary, but it's not bad. It doesn't take too long and it dries really quickly. So I finished building the Wyvern, and I just wanted to point something out that I thought was particularly interesting and pretty cool. The rider that I know now definitely goes with this model. Partially because I did end up looking up pictures of it, and this is 100% the model that goes with it. And I'm pretty happy that I have him, because in the box that I had all this stuff in, this was the orc that was riding on this model originally, or that I guess I had thought that went to this model. Turns out, while they're both riding orcs, they have the legs for riding, and they technically do both go on wyverns. This one is a shaman that rides a completely different dragon. And what I thought was really cool, and what I really wanted to point out here, was that the underside of this orc is sculpted to match the back pattern of the scales on this wyvern. And I just think that's really cool. So I definitely know this is exactly the model that goes on it, because it fits perfectly where he's supposed to sit. Now, what that means for this guy is I'm going to need to look for this dragon. And I did check eBay, and they're pretty expensive and hard to find. But I do like that. I enjoy that, because now I have something to look for this model. Now that we've gotten this all put together and we've got all the gaps filled, the milliput is curing at this point. I think another hour or so, and I should be able to prime this up and we can start getting paint on him. But he's looking pretty awesome so far. One of the reasons I wanted to work on this orc model in particular is because I've worked on an Ork Warboss riding a wyvern before. One of my more favorite projects, and something that I'm really happy to have in my collection. And I don't have a painted version of this one. The other reason is because I just bought some really cool orcs from a company called Knightmare Miniatures. And a whole bunch of those orcs were designed and sculpted by Kevin Adams, who used to do Citadel miniatures way back in the day. So a lot of the original space orcs and fantasy orcs, and even an orc on a wyvern way back was done by him. Now, I don't technically know if any of the other fantasy second, third, fourth edition orcs were done by him, but the aesthetic is still there. It still remains, and I really like the way that those orcs look. I like the way that all of these orcs look. When I think about doing, some of the Bretonian stuff that I have, some of the stuff that was kind of in the pile, I like this stuff a lot. I really do. But right now, with some of the inclusions that I've been getting with the orcs, I just really want to do that, and that sounds like a lot of fun. The old world is pretty exciting, and I think putting together a small force, even if it's just to play a test game, not like a full-on big game of the old world, I want to build that square base, and I want to push that, and I want to use a lot of the older metal models to do that. I don't necessarily want to get a lot of the newer plastic stuff. So that was a big part of why I really wanted to work on this model in particular. So now that we've got everything ready to go in sub-assemblies as much as it can be, I've printed out some bases which I think are really cool. They're from Asgard Rising. I found them on My Mini Factory, and it fits really nicely in this one in particular. It has these kind of ruined blocks, ruined bricks, and different things on it, and I like that a lot. I can do some fun, stonework, and we can put some moss in there, some little plants or whatever, and that'd be a really cool look for the rest of the army too once we get there. I like the old stone feel, that they've gone through and kind of conquered and broken things down, and that's fun. So yeah, we've got some of this stuff, and now I just need to prime everything up and start painting. Also kind of want to build this model right now and show you what I mean. I'm going to do that too. I'm going to build this so you can see it. Man, you can really see the hand sculpted nature of this, and it's really well done. It's really cool. I don't actually know if this particular orc was done by Kevin Adams, but I know that a lot of them on the Knightmare Miniatures website have been done by him, and he's got other ones that have been out through the years. I'm going to put a link in the description to those so that you can see what I mean. My goal with painting is pretty simple here. I want to keep things pretty straightforward and kind of classic, do a few fun things to make it a little more interesting, and that way I have kind of a baseline for an army going forward. So we're going to start with the dark green, and we're going to go into a lighter yellowish green that's going to be kind of the main color for a lot of the skin. Then I'm going to follow that up with some tan skin tone underneath. I like to do that because personally I like the mix of that tan and green, and then I like to put a purple oil wash over the top, which really ties everything together. After that oil wash dries, you can go back and manipulate it and make sure that it's in the proper places and not staining anywhere, and it's really convenient. So it's a great way to do something quickly and still have it look pretty good. There's always an opportunity after you paint a model to come back to it, to work on it more, especially when you're getting an army ready and you're kind of getting everything to look cohesive together, and when you're working on bases. A lot of the models that I'm probably eventually going to end up with, I'm assuming are probably going to be on round bases. Hopefully not, but either way, we're going to have to do a lot of work in order to make an army cohesive again from, parts on eBay. In order to make this model stand out a little bit more, I'm going to use red to contrast the green of the actual Wyvern. So I'm going to use an Army Painter Triad from the air paint range that's dark red up to kind of a bright orange. And we're going to put that under the shield, the axe, and the hair. From there, we're going to start blocking in a lot of the other colors. So a dark green for the skin, some gray for the wolf pelt, and brown for some of the leathers. Then all of that is going to get highlighted up using lighter browns, lighter greens, and I'm going to do some dry brushing over the top of that pelt just to make those individual strands stand out. And finally, we're going to dry brush some of that bright green on top of those scales to just hit the edges and make that detail really stand out.
Overall, I'm pretty happy with the way that this model turned out. That's nothing over the top. It's not really supposed to be.
You know, we're entering into this new phase of kind of an old hobby, and just getting some of these models out and getting them back on the table, especially for me, is really the goal right now. There's just so much about the way that these models were made and the way that they all look together on the table, on square bases, regimented, ranked up, and ready to go. Now, it feels like there is a lot of excitement around the old world and the release of that. And I'm definitely one of those people who's kind of excited about it. I never played fantasy, and I kind of always wanted to. And I think this is a really good first step into that. Right now, eBay is kind of a crazy place for the old world. Anything on a square base is being marked up incredibly high. It's kind of frustrating, actually, because now that I'm more excited than I have been in the past, I want to go find those things. But people are gearing up and getting rid of old armies and selling things to buy new things and all the stuff that goes with the new release. So it's really interesting to see how that's shaping up, and hopefully, we'll get to a place where that levels off a little bit. Some of this excitement dies down, and we really start to see how the community reacts to a lot of the things that have been coming out and are going to be coming out. But for sure, I am excited, and I hope you are too. I think it's a really cool time to be playing Warhammer again, to experience these old models that maybe you've never seen before. If you are one of those people who are excited about this, then, let people know in the comments. What kind of armies do you plan on playing? What kind of models do you want to paint? I'm hoping to get into more of these, bring more to the channel, start to explore some of the weirder stuff, especially the weirder stuff, because I know there's some deep history and deep lore in a lot of these models, and it's really cool to unpack that and just to kind of go through it again. So thank you again for joining me on another miniature rescue. If you enjoyed something about this video, please consider hitting that like button, sharing this video with your hobby friends, and subscribing for more miniature rescues. I'm Casey, and I will see you in the next video. And of course, here are the final shots of the sweet old Ork Warboss on Wyvern. Thanks again.